everybody, to introduce our last speaker for today. Last but definitely not least, our next speaker is a person who has been regularly quoted saying, "There needs to be a mind shift in South Africa about artisans, both by educational institutions and the broader population." Let us hear more on this from the CEO of the Artisan Training Institute, ATI, Sean Jones. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's a privilege to be here with all you young people today. Just to give you a bit of background about myself, I grew up in a family also with not a lot of cash. My father was a foreman in a factory. My mother was a housewife. And I didn't do well at school. And I've heard that same theme from quite a few other speakers. But I think the reason I didn't perform was because my parents didn't understand the value of education. And it was only later in life when I went to Technikon. I couldn't get into university. My marks weren't good enough. And I managed to travel afterwards. I worked in doing construction jobs in England, saving up money, traveling to other parts of Europe. And that opened my eyes to a whole new world. You know, in South Africa, we sit in a very isolated space at the bottom of the continent. And I often refer to it as a backwater. It's only when you start traveling around the world that you really, really start realizing the opportunities and what's out there. And it's very, very exciting. So when I got back, I managed to find employment, and I started my career at AECI, which is African Explosives Limited. And I worked there for 5 years. And then while I started working there, I did a conversion course to convert my diploma into a degree. And that enabled me to enroll for a master's degree. So I enrolled in my master's. It took me about 4 years because I had to convert. And I then, after working at ACI, I left. I went into consulting, finished that degree. And then recently I enrolled for a PhD. I finished that 3 years ago at the age of 53. So I must tell you, it's not how you start, it's how you finish that counts. And that's really, really important. Never give up, keep learning and pushing forward. Okay, enough about me. My topic today is the day in the life of an artisan. And it's something I'm very, very passionate about. And MC's been talking about being cool the whole afternoon. And I have to tell you, I know I'm not cool. I'm a middle-aged dude with no hair, so that's not cool. But the topic I want to share with you is cool. And the reason it's cool is because I've personally witnessed how many lives have been changed by young people going through apprenticeships and becoming artisans. It's super cool. So the Artisan Training Institute trains about 2,000 artisans or apprentices per annum. And we've got 3 campuses. The oldest campus is in Kimberley. It was established in 1973. The other campus is in Roodepoort. That was established in 1983. And we've got a campus down in Port Shepstone on the KZN South Coast. So collectively, those 3 campuses over the last year, since they started, have trained more than 30,000 artisans. And that's a lot. It's a massive, massive contribution to the South African economy. So what I think is important, before you share any concept, is to create context. So I want to share with you the context of apprenticeships and artisans and how it can change your life. So broadly speaking, there are 2 broad areas of apprenticeships. The one is in construction, where people can go become bricklayers, tilers, carpenters, that type of thing, plumbers. The other area is in the engineering skills, and that's what we specialize in. So we train welders, we train boilermakers, electricians, riggers, instrumentation technicians, we train diesel mechanics, we train forklift mechanics, tractor mechanics, auto electricians. So we train for 15 different engineering trades. And I recently did a podcast series with a lot of young people that were coming through our institution and qualifying. And do you know that in the mining sector, the one youngster told me that the year he qualified, he earned 68,000 Rand per month. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for a young person of 21, 22 years old to earn. And that's why I think becoming an artisan is very cool. It can change your life. You can, honestly, I've seen young people coming out of very disadvantaged backgrounds. They come in, they work hard, and 3 years later they qualify, and their life is set on a completely different path. So it's something I'd encourage you guys to look at. So the day in the life of an artisan, it depends on the industry you work in. It depends on your own context where you find yourself. But you'll find artisans everywhere. A lot of people underestimate where you find artisans. You'll find them in the agricultural sector, repairing tractors. You'll find them in mining, doing electrical work, instrumentation and process control. You'll find them doing fitting, turning, welding, boiler making. So you'll find artisans all over the place, right? And typically, depending where you work, some places are, like for example, manufacturing, where you go in and there's a very set process or product that gets produced. And in those environments, you'll find artisans like fitters, electricians, welders, and they will go and they'll do sometimes preventative maintenance. So that'll mean that they'll do work that stops or prevents production from shutting down. So it'll be planned work. And then in other cases, they'll go in and there'll be a breakdown in the plant, and they'll be called out to go and repair that. Another thing I've heard through the day, I just want to touch on this. A lot of people are afraid of apprenticeships because they perceive it to be unsafe. And I must tell you, it's not. Because from the time you start training to become an artisan, every module that you go through covers safety. And safety becomes inherent in every single thing you do. And if you're the type of person that takes safety seriously, you will adhere to what you taught. There's no good reason why you should get hurt at work. So the mining sector also perceived to be a very dangerous environment, especially when you go underground. Yes, sometimes things can go wrong, but in general terms, it's a very safe environment. There's a lot of practices in mining that prevent injury. So the tough thing with being an artisan, and I want to share this, I want to touch on gender as well. The artisan trades are not exclusively for women. For men, sorry. There are a lot of women coming in. And every year I see more and more women coming through our institutions. And women bring very interesting attributes to the trades. They're more patient than the men. They're more conscientious. They have fine motor skill. They're better at working with their fine motor skills. And they also don't rely on brute force to do tasks. They work smarter. So women have a place in the apprenticeship, in the artisan system. The one thing I do want to share, though, is that if you're a woman and you are not very strong, you have to choose your apprenticeship very carefully, because there's some trades that require a lot of physical strength. For example, boiler making, also fitting, and even in some environments where you have to weld, you're welding in confined spaces, so you'll be underneath conveyor systems welding, and you'll be working not just in cramped spaces, but you might have to work at heights. So you've got to choose your trade very carefully. And that said, even though there's some women who might physically battle with some trades, I know men that battle too. Not all men are strong. And the other thing that happens in all artisan trades is the need for teamwork. There are many times when even men need to call for help. Nobody can work in isolation in every single task. So if you're a woman and you want to get into the trades, don't fear it at all. There's a lot of opportunity for women to get involved. So the other thing that I think is important is for you guys to understand the pathway to get into an apprenticeship. There are a number of ways. You can do grade 12. If you do grade 12 with science and maths, it's a big advantage because it's going to make your journey easier. If you do maths lit and you don't do science, it doesn't mean that you cannot get into an apprenticeship. You can go to a TVET college, you can do your TVET subjects and still get into a trade. And we see a lot of kids, even if you're an early school leaver, you go to a TVET college, you do N1, do N2, a lot of employers look for either N2 or grade 12. That's what they prefer from an employment point of view. And if you are lucky enough to get into an apprenticeship, and I say lucky because the cost to train an apprentice is between $500,000 and $1 million, depending on the trade. That's what it costs an employer to train you, to qualify. But when you qualify, the world opens up for you. I go into Africa a lot. So we do work in Madagascar, the DRC, Zambia. We do work in Ghana. And when I go up and I see the mines and I talk to our customers up there are hundreds and hundreds of South Africans working on the tools in their trades across the whole continent. The other cool thing is that if you can gain 5 to 8 years experience, you can go and live in any country virtually that you want. Canada are crying for good artisans that are well trained. We have a lot of guys leaving to go to New Zealand, Australia. So there is more demand for artisans overseas than there are for people with degrees. They don't want our accountants. They don't want our doctors. They want our artisans. And I promise you guys that you must never ever think that being an artisan is a B choice. It should be your A choice because the world needs people that can work with their hands. So if you're the type of person that gets joy from working with your hands, I strongly encourage you to consider an apprenticeship. It'll change your life. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
It's a
Sean.
pleasure.
That was really insightful. I think the part that took me by aback, your English today, you know what I'm trying to say, right? Was the fact that you started off by saying that you had, I won't necessarily say that you failed, but you didn't have the smooth sailing journey that I think we all have the pressure or the expectations that are put on us of doing. You know, you have to graduate matric with really good results. You have to get through university well. And for you, it was a bit of a bumpy journey. You even had to convert your degree. But somehow, you've still managed to come out with a PhD. So in actuality, you are Dr. Sean, right? Congratulations. Can we give him a hand for that? Okay, so Nikki Palak is earlier on, so I need you guys to help me out with a few terms that he mentioned in his talk. Can you help me out with that?
Man, I need more energy. Can you help me out with that? Okay. So what we're gonna do, Sean, is we're gonna quiz them a little bit. Okay. Just because you know what, I was struggling, so I think they were the ones paying attention. They can help me out.
Perfect.
So can anybody tell me what an artisan is? We have mics going around, so just put your hand up. Okay, we have a hand over there. What's an artisan? Please tell us your name, the school that you go to. You can even tell us what grade you're in. Stand up so we can see your beautiful face.
Ma'am, my name is Khokelo Masemola. I'm from Katlehong Gardens in VCS, ma'am. So, artisan is a rope man.
An artisan is a?
Rope man.
How's that?
A roadman.
A roadman. Can you give us a little bit more of a description? Explain it a little bit more.
Ma'am, a person who's almost similar to an engineer.
Okay, so they create things.
Yes.
They put things together. They build things. Okay, does anybody want to take a crack at it? Come on, guys. I need the energy. I need you to give me something. What's an artisan? You guys have heard the word before. What word is an artisan? Art, right? Okay, so I think Khaukhelo did say it. It's somebody that creates something, puts it together. Can you give us a little bit more of a crisp definition?
Sure. So an artisan is somebody who could repair and maintain equipment. Think about an electrician. They can come in, they can wire a house, they can connect the DB board, and if there's a problem, they can come in and they do fault finding, and they find the fault and they repair that system. So that's an electrician. A fitter is somebody who will install a pump and align it. And often when you're installing and aligning a pump, the fitter and the electrician work hand in hand, because the fitter will install the pump, the electrician will come and wire the pump up to make it run and connect the electricity. So that's an example of two different trades that can be working together.
Okay. Do you want to take a crack at it?
Hi, again, it's KK. Basically, I gave my speech earlier, so I am an artisan. An artisan is like if you are trained in your trade. So basically, at the university, you get mostly the theory of stuff to be an electrician, a welder. When you get to Cecil or you get to a company, they train you physically, and then you get to experience what it actually be like to be a technician, to be an electrician and whatnot. So at the end of the day, then you become an artisan. So they train you through a learnership to be a welder. As soon as you are a welder, you are an artisan welder, or you are an artisan electrician. So that's what basically being an artisan.
Does that make more
Does
sense
it make
now?
sense now?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Can we please
Thank
give him
you.
another round of applause?